My dear Ogoni people, gentlemen of the press, I am Professor Don Varida, Chairman of the Facilitators Ogoni Dialogue Committee. I am former Vice Chancellor of the University of Port Harcourt, and one-time Chairman of the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Federal University and Association of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities. I am currently the Pro-Chancellor of the Federal University of Environment and Technology, My co-chairman of the facilitator team, Archbishop Ignatius Kate, is unavoidably absent. He is out of the country. I'll ask my colleagues to introduce themselves.
My name is Tom Jackson Oragi. I'm a legal practitioner by profession. And maybe I should join the chairman to say a little bit about where I'm coming from. I used to be a lecturer in the Rivers University of Science and Technology. I also was a national commissioner in the National Human Rights Commission. I was commissioner, Ministry of Education, Rivers State. I was commissioner, Ministry of Information, Rivers State. I was commissioner, Rivers State Judicial Service Commission. I am currently the secretary of the Ogoni Dialogue Committee.
My name is Honorable Joe Philip Oroma. I'm a two-time serving commissioner, former commissioner in Rivers State, and also a federal commissioner in the Federal Civil Service Commission. I'm from Thai local government. I serve as a member of this committee.
Thank you, sir. We are here this morning to set the record straight on the Ogoni Dialogue process. We have taken note of the recent press statement credited to the President of Gagote and two others, as well as successions of media publications containing allegations concerning the Ogoni Dialogue Committee, its facilitators, and the ongoing dialogue between the Ogoni people and the federal government. We initially refrained from responding to these publications as we did not consider it a public exchange among Ogoni stakeholders necessary or helpful to the process that requires patience, good faith, and unity of purpose. However, the continuing orchestration of what has increasingly assumed the character of a sponsored media campaign, accompanied by the repetitions of demonstrably false claims, has regrettably made it necessary to play the fact before the Ogoni people and the general public. How the ODC came about. Following the invitations extended by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to a broad spectrum of Ogoni leaders and stakeholders, those invited were charged with returning home to consult widely and have heard the views of the Ogoni people on issues confronting Ogoni and his relationship with the federal government. At that inaugural meeting, the President mandated the National Security Advisor, Madam Nuhu Ribadu, to steer and superintend over the process. The ultimate aim was to bring Ogoni back into the mainstream of national development and facilitate the resumption of oil production in Ogoni. Those invited formed what is now known as the Ogoni Dialogue Committee to carry out this assignment. On the same date, a subsequent meeting was held with the National Security Advisor, Madam Nuhu Ribadu, alongside top government officials, including the then Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Director General of the Department of State Services. During this meeting, a 4-member facilitation team selected from among the invited Ogoni stakeholders were appointed to 1. Oversee the implementations of immediate confidence building initiatives. 2. Lead the Ogoni mobilization, engagement, and dialogue process to receive views from all Ogonis at home and in diaspora. 3. Collect common views expressed by the majority into a unified body of demands ahead of negotiations with the federal government. The ODC thereafter embarked upon an extensive consultation process involving communities, traditional institutions, youth, and women groups, professional bodies, civil society organizations, political stakeholders, the diaspora, and other interest groups across Ogoni. The views gathered were collated into the official ODC report, which presented the demand, concern, and aspiration articulated during the process, and was duly submitted to the federal government. Confidence building measures. Before embarking upon consultations, members of the ODC met at the Office of the National Security Advisor. During that meeting, the NSA requested that we identify quick win initiatives that he could present to the President for approval. He and other federal government officials then excused themselves to allow the Ogoni delegation to deliberate freely. During this session, we identified several immediate measures to demonstrate good faith and restore confidence among our people. These included employment opportunities for qualified Ogoni sons and daughters, the establishment by law of the Federal University of Environment and Technology in Ogoni, rehabilitation of the East-West Road section passing through Ogoni, rehabilitation and improvement of sanitary health facilities, rehabilitations and improvement of designated secondary schools to be captured in the budget via the National Assembly, the development of an industrial park in Ogoni. No new projects, with the exception of the industrial park, were included in our quick win demands. It is only fair to acknowledge that the federal government responded positively to these requests, and progress has since been recorded on several fronts. Facts about employment. There have been particularly unfortunate claims concerning the employment opportunities secured during this process. The facts are straightforward. When the issue of employment was raised, NNPC made it clear that it will not compromise its established professional recruitment standards. The company informed us that its database already contains several qualified Ogoni applicants who had previously passed through its recruitment processes and performed well. The selection was conducted strictly from this pool of qualified candidates. While it is true that several members of the ODC submitted names of individuals they wish to consider, some of whom were not even Ogoni, the fundamental point must be clearly understood. The recruitment and selection process did not pass through the ODC, nor did the ODC determine who was employed. Any suggestion that the ODC or its facilitators allocated these employment opportunities as patronage is completely false and maliciously intended. No contract was awarded by the ODC. We state categorically that at no time did the ODC award, allocate, distribute, or become involved in contracts of any kind. Contracts were never part of the mandate given to the ODC, and the committee possessed neither the authority nor the machinery to award or influence government or NNPC contracts. It is therefore entirely misleading to suggest that the contracts were distributed by or through the ODC or its facilitators. on the alleged resumption of oil production activities in Ogoni. To the best of our knowledge, and based on available information, there are no oil and gas production activities in Ogoni, directly linked to the Ogoni re-entry program. Furthermore, NNPC has maintained that it has no knowledge of the alleged oil rig operations in Ogoni. State creation remains a key demand. Following the federal government non-rejection of our demand for the creation of an Ogoni state, the ODC established a tactical subcommittee to determine the modalities for achieving the creation of both states, along other related demands. The federal government noted that state creation requires constitutional procedures and the necessary processes have been set in motion. It is therefore ironic for certain individuals to mistake these facts unless they are pursuing predetermined interests that run counter to the collective interests of Ogoni. No federal government budget or funds were given to the ODC. We state without ambiguity that the federal government did not at any time give the ODC or its facilitators a budget or fund of the nature being alleged. For us, participation in this process has been a sacrifice and a duty of service to our people. Regrettably, some individuals took a different view and demanded payment even for routine responsibilities, such as monitoring project sites. It is particularly unfortunate for those who know the truth regarding the financial circumstances of this assignment to create the false impression that the ODC administer undisclosed federal government funds. Anyone alleging otherwise should state clearly the exact amount received, when it was paid, by whom, in whose account it was deposited. Public disclosure must be based on facts, not insinuations. Where the dialogue process stands today. Following the submission of the ODC report containing Ogoni demands, the federal government formally responded. The facilitator then held consultations with several Ogoni interest groups regarding the government's response, leading to the constitution of a technical committee to undertake a detailed review of both positions. The technical committee completed its assignment and presented its report to the ODC. Upon deliberation, the ODC resolved that a joint harmonization committee comprising representatives of both the federal government and the Ogoni should be constituted. The purpose is clear: to harmonize areas of agreement into an interim memorandum of understanding while negotiation continues on unresolved issues, most notably the creation of both states. That is where the substantive policy work currently stands. When concerns were raised regarding the initial composition of Ogoni representation on the Harmonization Committee, the facilitator chose to listen rather than insist on her own original choices. We agreed to reconstitute the representation to reflect the suggestion received. This decision was transparently communicated to ODC members on our internal platform and was commended by members, including those who are now criticizing the process publicly. What then is the purpose of this press report? They bring us to the fundamental question for every well-meaning Ogoni citizen. What is the objective of this escalating media campaign? If the objective is to improve the dialogue process, platforms already exist to do so. The ODC remains a collective body, and we, the facilitator, remain accessible to its members and genuine Ogoni stakeholders. Differences can be debated and corrected. Where members remain dissatisfied, issues can be escalated directly to the National Security Advisor. No facilitator claims infallibility, as demonstrated by our willingness to reconstitute the Harmonization Committee, we are ready to listen and adjust. However, if the objective is to discredit and scuttle the dialogue process entirely, those pursuing that course must pause to consider what Ogoni stands to lose. Have we considered how many jobs, enterprise opportunities, and skill development programs a fully developed Ogoni Industrial Park will generate? Have we considered the employment, contracting, and investment opportunities that could accompany a responsibly negotiated resumption of oil and gas activities backed by strict environmental safeguards and a safe prosperity framework? Have we considered the long-term benefits of the Federal University, upgraded health facilities, and ongoing improvement to the East-West Road? These are the vital outcomes that should occupy our focus. Our record is open to scrutiny. On behalf of my facilitators and myself, we stand proud of our record of service. Our individual and collective pedigrees in public life and Ogoni affairs are verifiable. Over the decades, we have used our respective platforms to assist our people with educational, employment, and developmental opportunities without publicly or expectations of reward. At this stage of our lives, we must ask, what could we possibly gain from soiling a name and reputation built over decades of struggle and public service? We accepted this responsibility out of a conviction that after decades of conflict, environmental devastation, and lost opportunities, Ogoni deserves to realize its aspiration through constructive dialogue. We do not expect universal agreement on every decision. Criticism is legitimate and necessary, but it must be founded on facts and aim at improving the process rather than destroying public confidence through false allegations. The choice before us. The Ogoni dialogue is bigger than the facilitators, the ODC, Tagote, MOSO, or any single organization or individual. The real question is whether we can leverage this historic opportunity to secure enduring benefits of our people. We appeal to all Ogoni leaders, traditional institutions, youth, women, professionals, and stakeholders to resist turning legitimate differences into another cycle of internal conflict. As the scripture says in Matthew, reminds us in Matthew chapter 3, verse 25, a house divided against itself cannot stand. I repeat, Mark chapter 3, verse 25, a house divided against itself cannot stand. The facilitator remain open to constructive engagement with Tagote, MOSO, and every genuine Ogoni stakeholders